Good evening and welcome to Just Seriously Voicing Thoughts with me, Kriss Venugopal. And today we have a very special person. She's a neurodivergent, a psychiatric consultant, a borough counselor, the person who is behind the founder trustee of MHAT UK. I have the pleasure to invite Dr. Jyoti Aryambat, who is also a vitamin D evangelist. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
First of all, the pleasure is always mine. Let me begin with one question, which is the most interesting topic for you. That is, you're called Dr. D, about vitamin D evangelism. So, we'd like to know about D, D3, the sunlight or the sunwit, all that concepts and misconceptions about vitamin D.
I think that is a very broad and kind of
Specifically,
vague.
okay, I'll make it very specific because in very cold countries, especially US and certain parts of UK or Russia, there is a concept that if you're not having vitamin D, then you tend to fall into depression. The mental health issue arises because of vitamin D. Other than the bone health, other than many other activities of vitamin D, how is it related to mental health? Let's begin with that.
Uh, I think it is um, I don't think you can actually kind of point it down to one particular thing. I think it is the overall health, sort of almost every organ systems in the body has got vitamin D receptors. So which
Mhm.
would tell you that everything is probably linked to vitamin D. So I would usually tell this to people when they ask me, you kind of ask me about any illness, I will somehow connect it to vitamin D. So um, yeah, of course, mental health is very, very important. And if you, I mean, I don't think we can actually kind of go into the details of vitamin D metabolism and all that. But
Hmm.
um, a lot of ailments, a lot of illnesses, a lot of difficulties, and probably dementia, immunodeficiency related issues, um, autism, ADHD. Again, as you all know, rickets and osteomalacia, i.e., bone health. A lot of interesting co-occurrences and probably causation, but we haven't been able to actually um, put it all down to vitamin D because we still believe that 400 international units per day is sufficient. So it's very
Mhm.
difficult to deviate from that RDA, recommended daily allowance, to do any meaningful studies. So I think, in my opinion, that is the biggest stumbling block we have,
Right.
because
Now,
unless we question that, unless we challenge that, we won't be able to use any decent doses in studies.
mhm. Now, when we look at, say, cancer, vitamin D deficiency can lead to, say, kinds of cancer. But there are people who properly put forward ideas that B17 is the main thing which can prevent cancer. Vitamin D and cancer, how is it related?
Um, Again, uh, even if you really go down to the genetics of it, D receptors and all that, um,
Hmm.
you can find a lot of associations. You can I think this forum probably may not be the right one to kind of sort of explain and explore all that. But um, even with
Hmm. Rather than the technicalities, I would, for a general person, we all hear that vitamin D, say a mid morning walk, can really help produce vitamin, or probably supplements like, say, Sunbit or other medicines can help. But again, it is not properly told to everyone that, yeah, you must go out in the sun, or probably you should give, make the deficiency correct by having regular checks of vitamin D. So the evangelism part comes when a common man's perspective comes.
Yeah, again, as I've been explaining earlier, so when we talk about any kind of supplementation, any kind of sort of for example, I mean, we can say you take this, and the sort of this could be cured, or this could be kind of help with, or whatever. You need to actually have evidence. So my point is about the collection of evidence. How would we realistically collect the reliable, valid evidence? For that, we need to do research. We need to kind of establish it as a causation. So at the moment, we know about the association. We know about cancer and vitamin D. We know about immunodeficiency and vitamin D. We know about, as in deficiency of vitamin D. We know about dementia and vitamin D deficiency. So we can actually kind of postulate, for example, the connective tissue disorders and vitamin D, elastin, gene called elastin could possibly be linked to that. Dementia and vitamin D, and multiple sclerosis and vitamin D, you could possibly have a relation with the good fat, and the Schwann cell, covering of nerve cells and so on. So you can actually have an association very clearly. You have association studies, but then when you get into treating with vitamin D, we are only
Hmm.
allowed to use very, very tiny amounts. So what we are able to do in India and other kind of countries, for example, UAE and other countries, people just treat doctors just treat patients with the high dose of vitamin D along with calcium, and
Hmm.
and then you get better. But that is still anecdotal evidence. You can't really call it evidence, because I would have probably kind of treated people like that, hundreds of people, but that is still an anecdotal evidence, because we haven't actually kind of done the research with the legitimate, legal doses, and then produced a result. So
Hmm.
unless we challenge those recommended daily allowance studies, and the blood level, again, a lot of studies where we originally calculated the vitamin D levels came from Scandinavian countries, and places where we didn't really have a lot of sun. So the issue with your melanin is a rate limiting, a limiting substance, in terms of your sun absorption, because you might be in the sun, and vitamin D toxicity is quite dangerous. So you might be in the sun, and take all the vitamin D, and become unwell. So
Hmm.
melanin actually prevents you from taking a lot of vitamin D from the sun. So whereas in cold countries, for example, you get sun only a very few days in a year, and you tend to store all that sun. uh,
Hmm.
you don't have much of melanin, and you store all those for a prolonged period. And also you eat a lot of fat, and it's a fat soluble vitamin. You eat a lot of fat, and that is stored. But there, interestingly, there is another issue with vitamin D, because there are two genotypes. One can produce it from the sun,
Hmm.
and the other one can't produce it from the sun. So no matter how long you are in the sun, you're still deficient, because you're genetically, you can't produce it from the sun. So your source could just be your diet. and again, if you're taking it along with the proton pump inhibitors like omeprazole and all those kind of stuff, you tend not to absorb it very well. And again, if you don't have vitamin B complex vitamin, you will again have difficulty in proper absorption. So another thing is your statins. You take statins and you take vitamin D. Technically, statins can melt cholesterol. So vitamin D is a cholesterol crystal. So there could be a lot of these um, you know va- these variables. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So when we look at a person having fatigue or bone pain or muscle pain or maybe illness and anxiety or very slow wound healing, can
Mhm.
it be just generalized as vitamin D deficiency, or there are umpteen number of causes which can be the reason for that? But are these not the common factors which identify that a person has vitamin D deficiency?
Um, yes, to a certain extent, because again, when you look at um, uh, so I mean, my area of interest is liaison psychiatry. So anything medically related kind of psychiatry, and any medical issues leading to psychiatric problems, or any psychiatric problems leading to medical problems, and so on. So in that, um, we particularly look at chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, fibromyalgia, and all that. So again, when you go back to basics, go back to vitamin D and calcium metabolism, you can actually you can actually see that why the muscles are fatigued, why again, there are connections with certain proteins, structural proteins, so and there has been other studies around autonomic nervous system and the connections, sphincter dysfunction, and all kinds of things. So you could argue that your smooth muscles are getting affected, your skeletal muscles are getting affected, because calcium mediates all those movements anyway. So again, your heart muscle is getting affected. um, so on a theoretical level, all these are possible. On a broader theoretical level, you can actually pin down a lot of these to vitamin D. And
Right.
again, a lot of people don't take vitamin D with calcium. So once you take high doses, smaller doses are okay without calcium, because you will have circulating calcium anyway. But when you take large doses of vitamin D, um, the body will try to fetch calcium to the bloodstream. And the only way you can actually kind of get calcium in sort of on demand is taking it from the bone. So you will have bone
From the bones,
resorption.
yeah.
Yeah. So again, there is no mechanism to put it back in the bone when you are sort of after 37 years in a female, and male, you can still do it later on as well. But
So
very,
could that be a reason? Could that be one of the
yeah.
no? Could that be one of the reasons for osteoporosis?
Yes, yes,
Right,
because
right. When you've talked about the diet,
Mhm.
now when you've talked about the diet, the main difficulty about vitamin D, we talk about salmon, trout, and other kind of fish. And when it's a vegetarian diet, mushrooms provide very less. Maybe milk products, dairy provides very less. So can it be generalized that a vegetarian diet will not give you enough vitamin D, or are there any other ways to supplement it other than medicine?
Again, when you talk about diet, there's no way we can actually quantify the supply. Again, it varies hugely. So what I would normally say is, if you're eating fat, that is probably, dairy fat, that's probably okay. But if the animals are kept indoors, if they don't get vitamin D, if they don't produce it from the sun, then their milk is going to be deficient. Again, human milk is very deficient, and particularly if the mothers are deficient, the milk is going to be really deficient. And then, you will feed human babies. I don't know what the recent guidelines on pediatric breastfeeding on and pediatrics is, but when you talk about the milk only diet, the human milk only diet for infants, it's really going to be a problem, because you're not actually kind of producing enough for yourself, and you're not secreting enough in the milk. Then your baby is going to be really deficient. So I think those are commonsensical, the really common sense. So we have to approach it like that.
When you said that you're neurodivergent, it's a kind of a beacon of hope to people that, yeah, there are ways to handle it. We would like to know about how you handle it.
Uh, Hello.
Can you hear me?
No, just I lost you in between, I think. Um, so did you
No, I
mean
was asking you when you are a.
I'm autistic?
Yes, I can hear you. Tell me. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So it actually sends a message to the whole world that, yeah, there is a possibility, there is a hope that you move towards a very normal life. Because people think once a person is having ADHD or ASD, the whole spectrum, or any amount of varying amounts of the spectral problems of autism, or those kinds of issues, how to handle it is a question with the parents. So when you say that you are a neurodivergent and you are a vitamin D evangelist, you are the founder trustee of MHAT UK, and you've done so much. So how do we take that lesson from you? We'd like to know that.
uh, um, uh, uh, yeah. I'd again sort of I'm um, I'm just thinking about how to kind of better answer the question, because when when I say I'm neurodivergent, um, I say that because I'm autistic as well as ADHD. I have ADHD, so it kind of AUDHD. But then, when you actually think about that, it is not really a spectrum, because it's more kind of a constellation. So we are now having to think of it as a constellation. Sort of imagine all these things, as in a starry sky. You kind of have uh, groups of um, difficulties. So, for example, ADHD, a person with ADHD could have autism, could have epilepsy, could have Tourette's, could have tinnitus, could have connective tissue disorders. So a variety of different things. So you have I mean, it doesn't really follow a particular pattern. You could have a couple of things and not others. and again, in terms of for people with autism, autistic people, they have sometimes have light sensitivity and um, auditory kind of sound sensitivity and so on. So again, you can't generalize anything, because I have a really bad um, experience with the flashy lights and so on. So anything kind of blue color light and all that will really freak me out. But at the same time, often the sensory rooms use such lights for autistic people. So you can't you have to, I mean, again, every autistic person is different. Every, as in, when you say everybody is different, every autistic person is different. So I don't know whether I'm giving hope to people, but what I can now tell you is, I mean, previously we used to categorize it as autism and Asperger's. Autism is probably when you don't have, sorry, Asperger's, when you don't have speech problems, and normal or above normal intelligence and so on. But that categorization is now gone. And again, autism without intellectual disability um, is something what people like me have. But we then become the advocates. We then I'm relatively eloquent to kind of talk about my issues. So I think it's a welcome move to um, sort of again, you talk about stigma and all kinds of things. So I see it as a positive thing. I don't see it as a I mean, uh, I have my share of difficulties, and sort of my life has not been particularly kind of smooth. But and when you say I have achieved, there's no sense of achievement there. But I just want to live as other people. I mean, yeah, sort of kind of a normal life, but without compromising on my comforts. So that is what we should really be aiming for, because if you make reasonable adjustments for an autistic person, that person can really thrive. That person can actually kind of really come up in life by really putting in uh, extremely small adjustments by other people, for example.
No, the main reason why I asked you the question was because mainly parents who actually hear the word autism, they immediately take it as a complete mental challenge or a kind of demented a life. That's what they look forward for the child. So, how to address that issue, or how to tell the parents that, yeah, there is hope? So, how early the detection should be, or even when we take the case of ADHD, the adult ADHD is probably undetected childhood attention deficit. So there are many issues which needs to be given awareness. Do you feel so?
um, I think we need to actually move away from that kind of medical model where you have a defect, you have a problem, and you need to fix it. um, as a doctor, we are all most of the doctors are geared to kind of fix the problem. But I would probably you treat all the physical problems, you treat all the kind of mental health problems associated. But when you talk about autism, it is you in terms of you in connection with the outer world. And if you don't want to be kind of sort of really involved in the outer world, that is okay. Because so that kind of neuronormative approach, that kind of medicalizing somebody's who they are. And I think that is fundamentally wrong. But that doesn't mean that when you're unwell, you don't treat them. That doesn't mean that you don't give the medication if necessary, and so on.
So the social and communication difficulties or repetitive interest of autism, the sensory sensitivity, as a child, they would never be able to explain it to the parents. So how early does the detection happen around the world? And when compared to that, India, it's happening much less, I feel.
Um, I think if you interfere early, and like I said, you correct the deficiencies. You try and see, for example, if a child is um, not really kind of going by. I mean, once you have an older child, you would probably pick it up quite early. But I think people are becoming more aware. um,
Hmm.
so the the main sort of line would probably be kind of look for any telling signs, eye contact. Sometimes kids, when they would have picked up everything, and then they kind of regress into kind of losing speech and so on. So that can also happen. But what I would hope is, having a sort of um, a better um, a better place for people who are autistic to live, a society to be more tolerant and more inclusive, um, and not particularly trying to correct them, not particularly kind of sort of let them be, not particularly try to kind of impose your preferences on them, because it is really hard. Sort of I found, I mean, I attended my college reunion in September, um, and I just couldn't tolerate the noise. We had this huge stage and DJ and flashing
Hmm.
lights, and really loud noise. And from what I gather, a lot of people did not enjoy that kind of sound. It's not that they're all sacrificing for this one person who's autistic.
Hmm.
A lot of people didn't like that kind of noise. But and again, the flashing lights were throughout the dinner. The dinner was served in the main hall, when there was this flashing lights. So just be considerate, just be kind of mindful that you have people who are slightly different from um, the neuronormative crowd. So, so that can actually kind of take you a long way. And a lot of parents, a lot of autistic parents, recognize themselves as being autistic when the children get diagnosed. And it's a chance for them to actually kind of change some of their ways. Be be nice, be kind of accepting.
Right, right. Other than being a consultant psychiatrist and a vitamin D evangelist, you are also a proponent of holistic medicine. We'd like to know that facet, and we'll soon open up the floor for the audience to interact with you. We'd like to know about the holistic medical approach, which you propose.
uh, Again, in medicine, I don't think we can. Again, I have actually touched upon that when I talked about vitamin D, because
Right.
um, you can you can't really separate medicine into boxes, because once you so what we have now is, you have extreme specialism, and you lose touch with the kind of disconnectedness. You don't see the person as a whole. So which is the sort of basis of holistic approach. So particularly with psychiatry, you can't really separate the physical kind of sort of medicine bit from the psychological stuff. So you have to see a person as a whole. um, and that is the thing, because and only a doctor can do it. And I think, I mean, I would probably say only a psychiatrist can do it, but that's it.
And now, being a borough councillor in UK, you represent a lot of people. Other than that, being autistic and ADHD, being neurodivergent, you represent a whole crowd who need attention and understanding. You are a psychiatrist who takes care of the mental health of other people too. So, all rolled into one. Really, which aspect of that would you feel that needs to be highlighted?
I think, that human part, probably, because in 2014, I was attacked. I was strangled by a patient,
Oh.
who went on to kill his grandson after a couple of months, 10 days of being discharged from the hospital. Uh, so, yes, I'm a psychiatrist. Yes, I'm sort of, this know it all kind of superwoman and whatever. But I'm just a person. I'm just, um, probably, a vulnerable person, probably, sort of, um, uh, it just brings tears to my eyes when I think about the little boy who lost his life. Um, so that's who I am. So my um, activism and whistleblowing and all kinds of things, getting into politics, everything comes from that point. um, because you see people. I mean, as an autistic person, you're very perceptive. You pick up everything from from your environment. And you kind of have your own system to kind of analyze and decipher what is there. So it's like, you're so aware. You're so in it. You're so aware, um, and you get it. So I can never disconnect myself from all these problems and issues. That's what I am. I can't help it, and that's what I do.
Right. Now, at this point, halfway through, I would like to thank Shabir, VH, Thomas Mani sir, Mustafa Amin, Dr. Santosh, Salah, Kabir, Kumar, Vishnu, Singh, Shanti, Saumya, and with all due respects, my mother, Bhagyalakshmi. So we have the time to interact with Dr. Jyoti Arya with herself. So if you raise your hand on stage and you can interact with Dr. Jyoti. Let me come to another aspect of where Santosh is from the World Health Organization. It's the same as podcast.
How you came about becoming the counselor in your area. Thank you.
uh, um, Thank you, Sandosh. And I think, um, I am. I'll take it kind of upside down, if I may. I'm kind of disappointed, disillusioned at the moment about, you know about uh, I think it is the realization which strikes late, when you join politics. As a borough councillor, there's very very little you can actually do. Um, it's mostly about fly tipping and sort of cutting grass and that kind of very sort of, uh, normal things. I mean, sort of course, you have some scope of lobbying and all that, but I think it is interesting in a way that you get to know the people, and even if you are you're sort of you're opportunistic, and you sort of see the point, and see the deficits and gaps, and how things can be done. There isn't um, anything we can actually do. Um, so it's like a municipal kind of municipality kind of thing. But um, again, I'm just thinking whether politics is for me, because as an autistic person, you struggle. I have come out as an autistic person with the council. I didn't with NHS, but I did for the council, thinking that it would make the lives of other autistic people better, other kind of people who are vulnerable and sort of having difficulties. But strangely, I I mean, I get lost in the building, in the council building, and I would want pointers and signage and all that, and even those kind of things, when you ask, it because people don't get it. People don't get it when I sort of I drive around my neighborhood for an hour to find a place, a very well known place, despite having sat nav and all that in my car. So it is still very difficult um, to do that, and it is exhausting to be on the other end of having to explain. So again, for an autistic person, it's not a major trauma; it's all micro traumas, little things which actually kind of contribute to tipping the balance. And so um, I think I'm probably a kingmaker, because I can direct people to sort of positions, and I can kind of find out about things, and maybe think that you will be more suitable for this post than somebody else, and so on. So I don't think I'll be interested in actually kind of becoming uh, y- a minister or something, but I would be quite useful if somebody else wanted to use me to help ministers, or sort of that kind of not particularly civil service post, but I think that kind of advisory capacity or something. um yeah, so that's what I think I would do in the future. uh, Samia, thank you. think there are two things. In India, I think we have a lot of our culture is a bit more normative in many ways, as in, we help people, whereas in the West, if you are very very individualistic societies, I think the disabilities, mental illness, and all those things are difficult. But having said that, it is becoming better. But I think we are probably, I mean, when I say we, in India, people are more compassionate. Um, they sort of, I don't know, but that's what I feel. And again, if we were to kind of create a system, um, looking after each other, or looking after kind of children with difficulties or adults with difficulties, we can actually make it happen with minimum resources, because our manpower is our biggest resource. So there are differences. Again, I couldn't tell you which is better. And definitely, India is getting better in terms of having facilities and all that. But for a disabled person to independently live, UK is probably better. Yes, yes, yeah. That Yeah, that is definitely there. Again, as a society, probably we, in India is probably more receptive to disabilities, but facilities and help, sort of, in terms of specific helps, in terms of integrating into the society, those kind of things are really better here. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, before I move on to Shahir, I'd like to add one more question to that, because the understanding of Tourette syndrome or ADHD or autistic spectrum as such, the whole idea about such difficulties with children in India, probably it is taken as the child being naughty or being not so normal, and proper care or attention is less still. Do you feel so?
Oh, even in the UK, it is, it's just, I think it is the same. People are becoming more and more aware, and we still struggle, as doctors, even doctors with autism, autistic doctors, struggle in our own kind of workplace and all that. So I don't think we can kind of make any equal society that easily. But I think understanding some of the difficulties and acknowledging can take us a long way. So I gave a talk to, there's an organization Thrissur, called AMHA. So I spoke to about kind of 100 200
Hmm.
sort of general public, parents, and educators of autistic people. So they were asking me, when can my child be like you? So, you have kind of achieved so much, and when can, so that is the, I mean, I wouldn't say that is the problem. Sort of, you want to cure this, really difficult problem. That kind of attitude, I think it's really harmful, because you want to help with the difficulties. You can actually live your life too full as an autistic person, but sometimes you need a bit of help from other people, you need a bit of understanding from others. You know you, I mean, it is the um, we call it double empathy problem or even triple empathy problem, because an autistic person tend to understand another autistic person, but we always find difficulty in communicating with
Hmm.
a non-autistic person, a neurotypical person. So that is a huge thing.
Right.
So at least
So it is
I
more
think
like we are
that
taking baby steps towards. Are we just
yes.
taking baby steps towards?
No, but I think
Right. Right. Right.
I think culturally we might do it better compared to other Western societies. I feel once we get the grasp of things, we might even do it in a better way.
Hmm. Right. We have Shahir. Shahir, the stage is all yours.
Yeah. Good evening, Dr. Jyoti. Am I audible?
Hi, Shahir.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. This
Yes,
is
you
me.
are.
I don't know how much it will be relevant. My question, actually, as a software professional, especially I am in Bangalore. We normally start our work early morning, and we leave our office by around 5:30. And
Hmm.
most of the people will reach office in the heavy traffic, maybe 6:30 or 7. So getting sun, proper sun, will be very difficult. And what we have observed is, I'm a people manager in my company also. At least I do not have all the data, but most of the people have vitamin D deficiency.
Hmm.
So does that create any problem, or I'm not sure any such kind of study in a Bangalore based software industry has done, but I don't know how it will affect our health as well as our individual performance. So I'm not sure this will be a relevant question to you, but I just want to ask.
Um, so that very relevant,
Very relevant.
very
It
relevant
is.
question. So what I normally do, I mean, I have a large number of friends uh, and family who are kind of IT professionals and so on, and you have a huge um, I mean, almost all of them are probably D deficient, and you have particularly these, like I initially said, there are a lot of illnesses which are coexisting, at the moment we can only say coexisting because we were not able to establish a causation, but diabetes, thyroid problems, for that matter, all hormonal problems, allergy, asthma, musculoskeletal problems, connective tissue disorders, um, uh, huge problems, depression, anxiety, and other kind of non-alcoholic fatty liver, lots and lots of problems. So it would actually be worth doing a study, um, because for the software professionals, if they we can just do a kind of a public citizen research or something, because that is easy to do, and they will go and get it tested and get the results. So we don't really need the ethical committee approval or whatever to do such a study. So that will be yeah, I'll look into that, if we can organize something.
That would be
Thank
great.
you.
If some such kind of initiative, it would be great.
Dr.
Yeah,
Jyoti,
I was
as
actually
Shahir just
planning to do
asked.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, please, please, please. Now, I was just thinking on those lines. The recent cases of people with cardiovascular diseases, and many young people dying in the IT industry because of the cardiovascular issues. Can it be somewhere linked to the vitamin D deficiency because of their late night work and probably not getting enough sun?
There are multiple ways where they could be connected, and again, we don't have much. We can't really conclusively say it is due to this, but like I said, there are associations. So any study, at least we need to kind of have some more conclusive evidence. We need to be treating people with um, high doses. Again, it all falls back on the fact that those studies were not um, really statistically correct studies and so on. So yes, but like I was saying earlier, if you tell me about any particular disease, I would connect it to vitamin D. So it's kind of, it looks as if, that's why I'm I call myself evangelist, because it's almost like a belief kind of thing when I say talk about vitamin D. But to shift that into something more research based, evidence based, we need to actually kind of do studies, and we need to challenge these blood level and RDA calculations, the original researchers which have actually led to wrong calculations. So it's a huge ask, and nobody will, at the moment, with the existing system. um, None of the none I mean, because we can't use large doses for research. None of our researchers with small doses would yield any meaningful results. So it's a huge issue. So I think that is the main stumbling block, and probably we need to go back to what we learned sort of physiology and biochemistry and um, um, that basic sciences, pharmacology and receptors and all that, and then reverse engineer to the cause, the effect, establishing the causation. That is the only way I can think of doing something, but I don't know whether that is practical. Thank you.
Yeah, Jyoti.
Hello.
Yeah, Jyoti. I think my brother has some difficulty. He'll come back soon. So, when is your next visit to India? Probably we're all waiting to meet you.
I think sometime in uh, July, uh, probably next month, mid July.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Good,
I'm
good, good.
actually, I've been kind of thinking of not relocating, physically relocating, but start um, something, some kind of a service for autistic people, um, probably a diagnostic service or something, because it's a huge, the demand is kind of quite huge.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
All the
Yeah.
best for.
thank you.
We have Fanaki Andrea. She's a transformation coach. Fanaki, the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chris, and thank you so much, Dr. Jyoti, for this insightful conversation. I have a couple of questions, but my first question is how many hours every day is enough for us to go under the sun and get the vitamin D that we need? And at what time exactly can we go out? Because it's like, can we go like at midday or more in the morning or more in the afternoon?
uh, I mean, there's a huge variation. So what I would normally, so for example, in the Middle East, the sun is very harsh, and you probably
Yes.
are better off, in the really in the mornings where the sun is not, because it all depends on the light, not the heat. So when there is light, that would probably be the ideal time. So not before it becomes harsh. And again, the your forearms exposed for 20 minutes is actually kind of enough for daily dose. That is the um, I mean, but there's a huge variation. Some people say your entire body exposed for 1 hour would only make 10,000 international units, but so it depends. It depends where you are. It depends your sort of position on Earth. It depends on your skin color. It depends on whether you put sunscreen, because if you put sunscreen and none of it is absorbed, and your genotype, because if you can't make it from the sun, there is no point you being in the sun. But it's a long process to actually kind of find your genotype. So your most if you have symptoms, if you have kind of or low vitamin D on testing, um, the best thing would be to actually take a decent dose of supplements.
Wow, thank you so much. That's very interesting. And my second question was about like, should we go all our body or just like 4 arms? And you just answered it already. So thank you so much, Dr. Jyoti. That was very insightful.
Yeah. So there's another thing. So when our skin makes vitamin D, you take it from the you I mean, basically the sunlight makes changes to the skin, and then vitamin D is produced in a very unstable form. It
Mm-hmm.
it actually binds with your fat, which is under your skin, and um, that bound form is actually very unstable. So the longer you stay in the sun, your body will think that this person is going to stay in the sun all day, and it's going to be really dangerous, so it'll disintegrate. So the longer you stay in the sun, it doesn't really produce more and more. So the already produced vitamin D tend to disintegrate when you stand in the sun for a long time. So the best thing would be to actually kind of stand in the sun, get some sun, and then come indoor to fix the D.
Wow,
Make
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fanaki. Now we have Kabir. Yes, Kabir.
Hi, Dr. Jyoti. Small question. I've been hearing about natural remedies, and once I've heard that rice bran would benefit. Like, is natural supplement benefiting vitamin D?
I again so I would make it very very simple. I don't know how much, because all these things are quantifiable in many ways. So if somebody could tell me that how much of vitamin D this particular thing has, then I can sort of give you an idea. So um there is an anecdotal this thing about prostate cancer and tomato. um
Hmm.
so um so it is said that to cure so to prevent prostate cancer, you probably have to eat 2.5 kilo of tomato every day. So um that kind of that's just absurd. You can tell that is just absurd. But then a lot of natural remedies are really potent, really quite dangerous to have. Like, we have heard this oleander arali fiasco in Kerala recently. So, they're not really sort of some of them are really toxic. Some of them, you will end up um, ingesting a lot of unnecessary things when you if you're not isolating a certain thing. So um, I'm not an expert on those kind of areas. So whatever you normally eat, you eat. That's it for me. So if you I mean, you just use a little bit of turmeric in your food. You just use a small kind of cube of ginger. You just use a couple of cloves of garlic. That is all fine. But then the moment you eat sort of, uh, half a kilo of turmeric and all that, it becomes a problem, and that affects your liver and coagulation and all kinds of things. So have that kind of judgment, have that common sense when you eat this natural or herbal supplement, so-called herbal supplement. But having said that, a lot of these herbal supplements also have found to have a lot of steroids and other kind of medicines, pharmacological preparations. So be careful about those things as well.
Right. Thank you, Kabir. At this point, I'd like to thank Farhad Sultana and Ani, who have joined us. Thank you very much, Vishnu, and others who have joined and been there for the show. Just seriously voicing thoughts with me, Kriss Venugopal, is every Thursday, 9:30 p.m. India time and 8 p.m. UAE time. Thank you very much, Jyoti, and I'd like to get your parting notes before we take leave for the night.
uh, yeah, it was really interesting, Chris, because I think I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and all the very best for your future um, sort of programs. Yeah, that's from me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm sure we all are walking forward with a hope that, yes, these baby steps towards understanding people who are neurodivergent, understanding the autism spectrum, ADHD, understanding the need for a research on vitamin D and how it affects our health, and understanding how things move forward, and also about mental health. Thank you very much for giving us insights, and I'm sure we have taken a huge lesson today from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
On this note, I'd like to wish everyone a good night, and see you next Thursday with something new, just seriously.